I think the notebook is really important because oftentimes if you're like, because you only have so much limited space for your like backboard, so if you have any additional or more in-depth or like raw data that you might need, you should always put it in your notebook because you never know when judges might ask for like, like a figure or like, can I see the data? You never know. So it's really good to have a very in-depth notebook. So the notebook itself has like a lot of components, and it's important that you have all of these components because it'll help make sure that your notebook is detailed and like a good holistic review of your project. So like you have a title page, abstract, acknowledgments, introduction, review of literature. So review of literature is just kind of like um a very in-depth um, part where you can show that you really researched the topic and you know a lot about what your project's on. And then you have your problem statement, hypothesis, you have materials, procedures, results, analysis, conclusion, recommendations, bibliography, and you have your appendix slash raw data at the end. And I see that someone asked if there's a maximum like or page limit, but yeah, there's no set max limit on pages. So just like have as many pages as you need to like get your project across and like include all the figures. So yeah, there's like an example notebook here.
If you guys want to go to this, there's a short link here that you can type in. I'll also show you where you can find it on the Science Fair website. So if you go to gsdscf.org, student resources, then if you go down here to section D, you'll see sample student notebook.pdf, and this also includes the same file. So let's go ahead and go through that. So there's a convenient checklist that the people who are organizing the fair have made for us. So as long as you have all of these things on the checklist at the front, then you will basically meet all the requirements. There are some small details though throughout that we'll just cover. So your title slide, you have the title. You can have images on here as well to show what your project is about. And usually people also have like their school, name, grade, stuff like that as well. Okay, then table of contents. This is very important in Microsoft Word and in Google Docs and in Overleaf and a few other softwares that you may be using. There are ways to make table of contents update live. So try not to have it be where the page numbers have to be updated manually, because sometimes people will add more content and then the page numbers will change for where things are, and you want the judge to be able to look through your notebook and find things quickly. But just include where all of your sections start. Okay, abstract. So this is something that we'll cover a bit later in the slideshow, but this is essentially like a summary of your project. It'll go right at the top, right after the table of contents. Acknowledgements. Often there's either people at your school, like your teachers, or parents, or any labs, or any databases that you used. Any of those things to acknowledge where you got some support are good. And you can include a section about that in here as well. Then introduction. So as you guys or your students have been working on their project, you may be very immersed and the project will become very familiar to you. However, you have to know that the judges and for people who are observing your project from the outside, for them it's going to be completely new and they're not going to know much about it. So this introduction section is where you contextualize it, you show why you chose the topic and some background information that people may need to know to understand the rest of your project. So, for example, here for this example that they're talking about, you start with a topic that many people will be aware of, home gardening, and then you can slowly transition to talking about your project. Okay, then review of literature. So this is essentially what makes will make your project kind of a research project as well. So this is where you can mention a lot of different things, such as what sources you used what research you did to figure out what the problem was that your project was solving. If you copied any methods from other projects, or if you were inspired by any other projects or papers, also make sure to mention that here. And it has to be at least 3 pages, but it can be, or it's encouraged to be longer as well, to show that you've done a lot of background research. And feel free to give background information here about your field as well. Sure, I'll cover the tiny, I think some might have gotten, there we go. Then beyond review of literature, you should have a problem that your project is leading towards, or like some specific goal that you have found from doing this research that will lead you to the problem statement. So here you can either do like a question that you want to test, or it can be a problem that you're trying to fix. So as I said before, there's a science project and an engineering project. For science projects, your goal is to answer a question. For engineering projects, your goal is to build a prototype that fixes or solves a problem. So describe for either of those here for whatever your project is. Then hypothesis. So there's either a hypothesis for a science project or design goals and specifications for engineering projects. For hypotheses, you basically say what you think is going to happen, what you predict is going to be the answer to your research question. So it connects directly to this over here. And then you have to explain how you got to that opinion. And it doesn't matter if this is right, even if you say a hypothesis and after doing the project you find that it's not actually correct, that's fine, and there's no penalty for that. This is just to show what you were predicting beforehand, and often projects do find an alternative hypothesis that they support. That's not their original hypothesis. For engineering projects, this will be like your design goal. So whatever you're creating, whether it be software or a robot or some contraption, just describe here what you want your prototype to look like, and what plans and specifications you had in mind before you started making it, so that the judge can understand why you made certain things in your project. Then materials. This is pretty self-explanatory. Just list the materials that you used. One thing though is oftentimes the core part of your project, the part that makes your project interesting, is what you did, what the materials or what results you found. So you can make sure to include the materials, but you don't have to stress too much about getting every single thing in the materials exactly right, because that's often not the novelty of your project. But be specific about things though. You can put brands, you can put prices if you want to, and just be specific about amounts. So for example, here we see 100 milliliter graduated cylinder, and specific numbers attached to almost all of these items. So make sure to be specific about those as well. Then procedure, also called methods. So here's where you just explain what you did throughout your project. So this could be a step-by-step list if you did an experiment that you designed, or this could be like different phases of your project that you went through if you're, for example, prototyping to build something. The goal here is include enough information, ideally include images here too, so that the judge can visualize what you're talking about, and include enough information here so that someone else could recreate your project or could learn a lot from your project and do something similar. So connecting to the specifics of what materials you used, and then what you found in between, and all the different things that you had to log. You should make sure to include that. And you can include pictures of your process as well. After that section is your results section. So here, this is basically like raw data that you find. For science projects, it'll be basically your measurements, any notes that you took. I see a question, is there supposed to be a presentation? Yes, there's a slideshow as well, but we'll mention that very briefly right after. I think after we talk about the abstract. But in the results section, this should include any raw data that you got. So you're not contextualizing the data. You're not explaining what the data means. You're just showing them what you created. So numbers, charts, anything like that is perfect here. So you can see a chart like this. For making charts, Google Sheets, Excel, any software like that is perfect. And yeah, if you have to do some calculations to find, for example, percent change, you can do that as well. R squared value. It's a concept you may have learned about in school to see how closely your data fits to a model. So for example, if you have a line and then you have a lot of points that you found in your data that are close to that line, you can measure how close they are using R squared. But the biggest thing here is just show the judge all of the data that you were able to collect. Then there's analysis. So here is where you say, okay, we got that raw data. What does that mean? What does that imply for the project? Connect this to your research question, or show the judge why certain things happened in a certain way, or why the things that you found are important. So now here it's not just raw data. Here is where you, as a researcher, as the person creating the project, would give your additional analysis of what exactly those things mean. You can also compare and contrast the data. So if you're testing different things in a similar way, compare the results of those different things. Then conclusion. So for your conclusion section, your goal is to basically summarize and restate the main aspects of what you did, what question or problem you solved, and then what explanation you think would explain your results if it's a science project, or what the main purpose is of your model if you prototyped something and created an engineering project. Okay. Then recommendations. This could also be called future work. This is where you talk about what you could improve for your project, what you wish you could have done but you weren't able to do, or other things that you realized that you wanted to do but you didn't have time to do, or something like that. So if you were to continue this project, or if someone else were to take on the project after you and continue it themselves, what is next? Like, what do they have to do? So next steps, future work, recommendations, all of those names work for this section. Okay, then works cited. You can also call it your bibliography or your references. So here is where middle schoolers will need a minimum of 5 sites, and senior division will need a minimum of 10 sites. But a lot of projects have more as well. So you can pick any citation standard, such as MLA, and then just use that format throughout. Don't use different formats for your different citations, but just list all the sources you found here and that you used. You can also feel free to annotate it and say how you used each source, but depending on your project, that may be very time consuming or it may not be as relevant. So you can decide whether to do that or not, but just include your sources, including images that you use if they're not taken by you or screenshotted by you or drawn by you. Okay, then your appendix. So this is where you put all of the raw information and stuff that you did that is too long, or that may not be necessary information completely for the judge to understand your project as a whole. So for example, for computer science projects, this is where students often put their code. So they put the raw code of exactly what they put into their computer or into another machine. Or you can also just put all of your figures here. You can include pictures that you didn't have space to include in other places in the notebook. You can include additional data that you weren't able to include or that maybe wasn't as useful for you to include earlier in the notebook. But oftentimes the appendix also just has like a zoomed in version of a lot of figures. So if you have, for example, a picture in your introduction, but it's kind of tough to see this, make out exactly what's in it, have a figure number underneath, and then just put that figure or the picture in the appendix, but much bigger. That way, if the judge asks to see any of that, or if you want to show any of that information to the judge, just flip to the end of your notebook, you'll have it there with you, and then you can show them the appendix and the large version of the picture. Okay, that's the main information for the notebook. Let's see. If you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute or put it in the chat now as well. Okay. That's what we've got for a notebook then.
Okay.
When is this due? Oh, now we're asking the real questions. Okay, so the due dates are all listed here on the website. I'm just going to show you where they are just in case things come up. So we'll do calendar and schedule in the GSTSCF website. So you can see this is currently where we are. We're in the screening process. So people have submitted their slideshows, and then they're going through either screening to see if people need to update their slideshow or not. But then here is where you are going to upload your slide deck, your final slide deck and notebook to Zfairs. So Zfairs is the online platform that we use. It is due on the 27th, but if you can, try to upload it a bit before that in case there's any issues with the site last minute. Another thing is you may have to compress your PDF that you upload. So that could take some time to compress the file size down if it's very long or if there's a lot of images. So leave a bit of extra time, but this is due officially on the 27th. And then, yeah, once all of those are in, then those will be assigned to judges, and then judges will be able to preview the presentation before your presentation and your notebook beforehand in Zfairs. Okay. Data files can be put as link. Okay. For anything that you're including, such as data in the notebook, please try to include it in the notebook itself, especially if it's really long. Still include it in the appendix. The only exception, I guess, is video, because you can't include a video inside the PDF. But for video, you can have a device with you at the fair to show the judge any videos that you want to show them. But yeah, external links, judges are much less likely to click, and the links might break, or there might be a typo or something. So just don't take the risk. Include as much data as you can inside the notebook. Can results and analysis be combined into one section? I've seen this done a little bit before. It kind of depends on your project whether we'd recommend it or not. If you're doing a science experiment where you're just measuring raw data, like it's only just numbers or something, then it's useful to have analysis so you can explain what those numbers mean, especially if the judge is unfamiliar with your project. If it's, obviously it'll be one of the first times that they're seeing it. So I would recommend doing an analysis section, but if it's like an engineering project where you're just describing the performance of what you made, it's good to include it, but I've seen some projects where you don't include both. Yes, the physical version of your notebook, you just print it out ahead of time, you staple it together, or you put it in a binder, and then you take that with you to the fair. That way, if the judges have any questions, or if you want to show any additional details to the judge, you can open up your notebook and show them. For the payment, that's a good question. The payment should be, I think if Mr. Rodecker's here, maybe you can answer that question about where people do payment. Then we see abstract due on the 20th. Is it the same as notebook? So the abstract, because it's a summary of everything that you've done, and it's kind of like the part of the project that the judges will be seeing first, it's okay if there's some minor changes that happen throughout. So if you want to make a couple of changes to the abstract before you put it in your notebook, you can. But otherwise, do try to keep it very similar. And yeah, it should be finished by around then, so you should be able to submit it now. The slideshow should also have the abstract, so. My code is long. Should I put all of that in notebook? It's up to you. Some people don't, but my recommendation would be yes, you should, because then that shows the judge a lot of proof that you actually did a lot of work and that you have actually coded all these things, and it's not just like some other thing that you found or a simpler way that you did it than what you're explaining. It's really awesome to show proof and stand out from other people competing as well. So I highly recommend, because you already have the code, you should put it in the appendix of your notebook. Do you have to follow the template for the abstract on the website? Let's see. Which part of the website were you looking at? Because there's a couple of places for the website giving instructions on abstract. For a computer program, what should be the notebook? Is a notebook digital? Yes, the notebook is just a PDF. You can make it in Google Docs, Microsoft Word, any other software. Uh, yes, if you want to include handwritten stuff, you can take pictures of it and put it in the document that you create. But it's basically digital, and then you print it out before you go to the fair in case you want to show the judge physically. On the slides template, there's a section called discussion. Yes, it's the same essential purpose as analysis. Yes. Where can a student upload their notebook on the portal? So there's no place right now to upload it because that uploading will all happen through zFairs. It's the online platform that we use, and that will you'll receive those things in an email on February 23rd, approximately then. And then you can sign into zFairs and you can upload it there. So it's not in the project portal that you have been using. There's a word limit on the introduction and abstract. There's no word limit for other sections on the notebook. Your abstract is the only one that has to be within that word count, but the other ones can be as long as they need. But if before making yours too long, do consider that you have to, making it really, really long can actually be a bad thing because the judge may not be able to get through all of it, or it may be confusing for a judge. So too short is not good because then you don't provide details and evidence of what you did, but too long can also be bad. So don't feel pressure to include hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. So just include as much as you need. Is it okay if it's already printed and made? Are you talking about the notebook? Yes, okay. Do you have a digital copy of it? Okay. Yeah, if you have a digital copy, then just upload that digital copy to zFairs when you get the login information. If you already printed it, that's fine. If the student wants to add something, they still have around 2 weeks to add things to it. So if they want to make changes, or if you want to make changes to the notebook, you can still do that. So you might have to reprint later as well. Okay. Abstract is digital. Yeah, if you create an app or something, include lots of images and examples of you using it and screenshotting it, because you can have the app there on a device at the fair, and you can let the judge click around in your app, but for the slideshow and notebook, it's recommended to just put images. It asks whether my computational biology project is science or engineering/computer science. That depends. If you're doing this first type of project, answering a question and then doing experiments to find the answer to that question, that was a science project. But if you're just creating something to solve a problem, and you're not answering a specific question, that's engineering. So it depends how you're styling your project, like what your initial start point was. Was it a question and a hypothesis that you're testing, or was it a prototype that you're making? Should I include demo link in the PPT? No, don't include links in the slideshow because the judges are not supposed to click any of the links in there. Include anything on the slideshow. It should be as images or text on the slides. Yeah, some students will have a fancy printed poster. If you want to do that, you can go to any UPS store or a place like that to print it. But if you don't want to, that's also okay. That's not something that judges are looking for as a requirement. So it's also completely fine to have a handmade poster as well. Our school has a science fair and we already made the notebook and backboard display following the GSDSF guidelines. You don't have to make new ones, just make sure that that is from this year. Like if it's from a long time ago, before you got approval for your project, you may not be able to use it. But if it was in the past couple of months, then you should be able to use it as well. But I would recommend if you have any updates you want to make to it, feel free to do that as well. Abstract, it's going to be in your notebook. Does is abstract needed for printing on the fair? You print it and put it in your notebook. You can also include it on your poster. Minimum page number for the notebook. Make sure you have all the required components. As long as you have fulfilled all the things on this checklist here, then you should be good to go. So some of these things have some page requirements. Those are all written here, like review of literature, 3 typed pages, double spaced is the minimum. Just make sure you have those things. Font type. Can you please review font size, font type, and spacing for the digital notebook? Let's see. Yeah, single spaced or double spaced are good. Just make sure it's a legible font. So don't use like a fancy cursive font or something that might be hard to read or that might not print very well. Any simple font like Calibri, Times New Roman, Arial, Inter, any of those fonts are good as long as it's easy to read. And yeah, 12 to 14 point. That's a good place to be at. Internet at the fair. If anything that you're showing requires internet, just have it downloaded locally. So if you have an app or a website, for example, just download it to your computer and then show them the HTML file or the web app live. If it requires pulling from any additional data elsewhere, also download that. So be prepared to do everything offline. You can use the same slides for screening as for the fair, as long as the people who screened your presentation approved it, then you can use those same things. Size of the poster, we'll go through that in just a second. When does the poster need to be ready? Yeah, 1 day before judging, because you'll need to come and set up your poster and get everything cleared the day before or the couple of days before. So that'll be sent out as well. Yes, poster guidelines, that's what we're going to do in just a second. Okay, example for poster slides and notebook for a computer program project with output. You should be able to follow the templates that we're going to give you, or that we've given today. Just adapt them for your project as if it was an engineering project. If the review of literature is 2 pages long for a school fair, yes, you do need to make it at least 3 pages for the San Diego Science Fair. Okay. Okay, now we're going to switch over to the next section. We'll answer some questions as well. I think other SLB members will be answering the questions as we go. But now we're going to move on to talking about the abstract. So, I think, yeah, Guhan is going to be
Yeah.
talking about this.
Okay. So first of all, I'll cover what an abstract is. So an abstract is a concise summary of your entire project. So you want this to be short and sweet, basically. And you don't want it to be anything over 250 words. It should be completed after all of your non-documentation related work has been completed. And your abstract is one of the first things the judges will see and one of the key things they remember when talking to you about your project. So it's pretty important in the sense that it's like kind of like a first impression about your project. Next slide, please. So these are the key aspects that make a great abstract. So you want it to be concise and clear. It should be complete and cohere to your project. Also, to keep it professional, you don't want to include opinions and especially not write it in first person. It should be able to stand alone as well. So, next slide, please. So these are kind of the key parts of every abstract. So it's a little bit different for science projects and engineering projects. Science projects need a clear problem statement and a purpose and hypothesis for your work. It should include some background information. You also want to include a procedure of your experiments and your data collection. Also the results and descriptions of your data. Also, be sure to discuss and analyze your data and kind of explain the significance of it. Include a conclusion, a summary, and a summary of results. For engineering projects, you want a clearly stated purpose or design goal, and of course, background information. You also want to describe your different like iterations between your like design and redesign and like your testing for your different models or prototypes. Um, be sure to explain and talk about the results of your different iterations and redesigns. Um, and you want to just like focus on like kind of achieving that engineering goal of yours for these engineering projects.
And now I'll switch over to looking at an example. It's also in here. So as I mentioned, this should be done last. Uh, this should include everything from different phases of your project, and it should be brief. So try not to include like long context or background or anything like that. The the thing that you should understand about the purpose of the abstract, if I'm someone who's walking by your project and I don't have enough time to see your entire poster or to open your notebook, I should be able to read your abstract, provided like I'm able to comprehend what you're saying. I should be able to read your abstract and then understand your entire project in summary. Then, after I read your abstract, I should have questions. Oh, how did you do this step? What did you get in this phase? And then I can ask you more questions through your notebook or through your presentation, through your display board. But they should cover all the essential information. So don't include information that's not essential to understand the novelty or the purpose of your project, but feel free to include anything that's critical that you found that you think would help the judge understand your project as a whole. Okay, this will go in the front, and yeah. We'll go on to the digital presentation now, and then we'll answer questions after this as well. Okay. So, the digital presentation, this is something that you would have already created for judging and screening process of your project. It was due a few days ago for high schoolers and then a little bit before that for middle schoolers. So again, just a general overview of your project, and yeah, no links on the presentation. Here's the template. You can also find this on the website. If you want to find it on the website over here, you should be able to see it in SRC Review and Quality Screening. Then digital presentation template right here. And then it'll have you download it. This is what the template looks like. You should be familiar with this from creating your project slideshow already. But abstract. Now this is a guide for how you can make your abstract, these different paragraphs that are here. If you feel that, like, for whatever reason, your project it would fit much better if you were to change a couple of things around. It's fine if you don't include, like, this specific exact formatting, but this is a general guideline that you should use. And, yeah, try not to make it too long. 2 to 5 sentences times 5 paragraphs, so that's 10 to 25 sentences that you can include. Once you have that, it should go to around 250 words, and you can't be longer than 250 words. And yeah, it should summarize your entire project. Here are some guidelines for engineering and computer science special projects if you are doing one of those. Okay, then other information here, you can see basically the same contents that we covered, but obviously you're shortening it down, you're summarizing it, and you're not including each and every detail because it's just supposed to be a summary, like a slideshow presentation for people to glance through. Then you will be able to make a new one for that, or update the one that you have gotten approval for. If you want to make a couple of small changes, don't change it too much because the one that you got approval for or that you're getting feedback for from the fair, you want to use that one and then just add a couple of things to that one. If you make a completely new one, then the approval that you got is not relevant anymore, so don't change it too much. Okay. Yeah. Lots of images, no links. Follow the requirements that are mentioned on the slideshow, on the template. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the project display, and I think Alex can take this.
Okay. So first off, the project display is like the backboard, and it's the first thing that the judges will see about your project. It's it will provide like important information that you will want to show the judges, and it will describe your project. Yeah, it's here are some examples on the right. Okay. So there are a few requirements because there's not that much space on the tables. You can only have a 30-inch depth. So if your project can't be longer, sorry, it can't be it can't be longer front back wise than 30 inches, which is 76 centimeters. Um, and so width is 48 inches. So before you buy a backboard, you want to make sure you're buying one that will be okay for the judge. The height, there's plenty of room. Like 77 inches is the maximum for the height. But if you, yeah, if you decide to put images, it must be sided, which will. So if you took the picture, you could just say photo taken by insert your name. But if you're doing an image from, say, a research from NOAA, you will say image credit to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. You're not allowed to put anything that will um, say previous things that you've done, such as previous awards. You can't also put personal information like telephone numbers. And don't put in QR codes because like, they can't really scan it. And well, I mean they can, but and any models that you bring, if you are doing an engineering project and you want to bring in a model or a prototype, it must be safe. People will be checking that when you enter. Yeah. So great project displays are organized and they have, but they're also precise and it will show a little bit of everything regarding your project. It will also require good citations for images. And again, you cannot contain anything that's like a link or a QR code just because like you can't put it on there. And also follow all of these instructions. So there are a few example backboards. Sherlock, do you want to click the science one? Okay. So as you can see here, it's like a trifold. There's three parts to this backboard. On the left, you have a problem and question. On you also have a background research and hypothesis and variables. On the left, it's best if you make it so that it's like almost an introduction. Then there's the project title, which is 10 words or fewer. Underneath the project title, it's probably one of the first things the judges will look at. So use photos. Don't use direct face photos unless if it's of yourself or yeah, because if you're doing a human study, you cannot put photos of your subjects. And then underneath that, you'd put materials and procedures. Put materials and procedures close to each other. That way it's easier for the eyes to just go from materials to procedures. And then put results. Results should take up a significant part of the poster. If you have any graphs, so that's any line graphs, any charts, any pie tables, put those in there. Also, if you have like data tables, such as timelines or calendars, put that in there. And then on the right-hand side, put your results and data analysis, which is helpful for providing a summary of your data, because sometimes it might be a bit confusing to just have a lot of numbers and graphs. So on the right, you might want to explain your project in retrospect, including a conclusion and why your project matters. And then in front, if you wish, you can put a project notebook. And if you wish, a model or an apparatus. Another thing, I don't remember if you mentioned it earlier, but one thing you might want to do with the project notebook is tie a string to it and make it and attach it to your backboard. That way it doesn't go missing. If you want to click, do you want to click the engineering, Sherlock? Okay, so the engineering one is very similar. Some of the main differences include using a statement of problem and why you need to solve this problem, background research, and then there's another section, criteria and constraints. You want to explain what your prototype will do and what variables you'll need to eliminate and explain any limitations or constraints. In the middle, you want to have a design and execution, which is also different from the science one, because the design execution will be a step-by-step list of the process that you followed to make and include diagrams and photos. For example, if you also need to put more design execution space, what you can do is like have a book or a flip book on there, so you can have flaps, and then you'll also want a prototype section, which will show and describe your prototypes. You can also use many photos if you want here, and the rest is very similar to the other one.
Okay. I'll add a couple of small things on here. So remember, the purpose of your project board is not to provide each and every detail about your project. So doing a wall of text or just including very small text or tons of images without much context for it, that is not going to help you. That's just going to take your time for making the poster. What your goal is have it be an aid to your verbal presentation. So when you're explaining something, the best posters are like this. You can introduce your project, and then if you're showing a judge what you found in your research or what you started with when you're making a project, you point to your poster. That is the ideal poster design. Text should not be very small. You shouldn't have paragraphs and paragraphs. Leave all that stuff for the notebook, which you'll also have there with you. But if you put too much content on the display, you will have put all this effort into making the display, but you won't actually be able to look at it during the presentation that you're giving, and the judges won't be able to actually read all of it. So don't make yourself do a lot of work putting tons and tons of words, because that's not the purpose of the poster. You can also, the sections of your poster, as Alex showed you, it should be very similar to the notebook. So you can easily find something in the notebook as you're presenting if you want to do that. Okay. Now we will switch back to some questions. This is the last slide that we have for today. So questions, feel free to put it in the chat. At this point, you can also unmute if you'd like to ask a question. And for the next 5-10 minutes or so, we'll just go through and answer those. Mr. Wong, are you asking about a sample project poster for computer science? Okay. For those ones, computer science will often follow the engineering template. So, uh, I mean, you're also engineering and creating something. It's just virtual. So you can also definitely include criteria, constraints, materials. So materials, it won't really be like the specific. Like you can mention the computer that you used, but also you can mention any libraries that you used, programming languages you used, software that you utilized, anything like that would be in materials. Uh, and then yeah, design and prototype should also be there as well. Just show if you made an app or if you made a program. Just show maybe a diagram as well could also be useful for uh, how your code works. If you could just make a diagram version of it. And then results, you can include any kind of charts and stuff as well that also apply for a computer science project.
因为 for data science 的话，它需要把这个 program
Sorry? Okay, I didn't catch that if that was a question. Okay. Could you email all the templates and samples? So these are all available on the Science for website. I'm going to go through them right now just to clarify where they are. Slideshow template. Okay, so if you go to the Science for website, gsdsef.org, students, SRC review and quality screening, scroll down, you'll find digital presentation template. This right here, this will download a copy of the template that they've created. And this will download as a PPTX. If you want to import it to Google Drive and do it as a Google Slides, you can also do that. There are speaker notes here. There are detailed instructions for them. For the notebook, students, student resources. Then scroll down here to section D, sample student notebook. Here's where you can find the full PDF. This is the checklist that we're talking about, the first 2 pages of this PDF. It's all available in here. Then, for abstract, those are also in here. There's some guides available. There's tons of resources here over the years that we've accumulated. Display requirements. Sorry, I just lost the page. Student resources. Then, yeah, GSDSEF display requirements. Here, it'll open up the PDF that has specific instructions for everything you need to know for your poster display. For specific regulations, those are also available here, the ones that we just didn't cover as specifically. Science sample is available here, the one that we showed you. Engineering is available here. And preparing for judging, judging standards on top of like how to organize other parts of your project, tons and tons of resources available here that we've gathered over the years of the fair. Okay. Ooh, the fair setup and teardown process. So, there's a couple of sessions that'll be available where the venue will be open. There'll be an area at the front where you'll come in and there'll be people who will go through and look at all the stuff that you're bringing in. They'll make sure that it follows the rules. So, for example, no name is allowed on the poster board. So, one common thing is they'll cover your name with tape once you come in the front. But they'll make sure your elements are safe. Anything that you're bringing in, they'll make sure that everything you make follows the requirements. And then after, I think, like 10-20 minutes or so, then you'll be led inside. And then you'll be given your project number, so you can find where you are in the fair venue. You'll go inside, set up your poster, set up your prototypes, and then you can take stuff home after you've gotten them cleared at the fair. So if there's a device that you have to charge or something like that, you can take it home, charge it, and then bring it back. One thing that they were doing last year is they put a green sticker on top of all the stuff that they approve of. So just make sure you keep that sticker as well. And then on the Wednesday morning, you show up for the fair. Everything will be set up from the day that you set it up a few days or a couple of days before. Then you'll do the presentations and all throughout the day until around 3 or so. I think those things can also be found here about calendar and schedule. So yeah, fair setup Monday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or Tuesday 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is for the fair itself. This is not for students setting up their project. But then students, you can set up your project 1 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday before the fair. And then you'll come in, set it up. And then the next day is the fair events where you'll be presenting. Then the awards are on Thursday night. And then there are student tours and people that will come and see your project in between. And then you can pick up your project on Saturday and Sunday. And then any projects that are still left there on Sunday evening, they will, if there's someone on the SLB who knows who you are, they'll try to save it for you, but otherwise it'll probably get thrown in the trash. So pick it up between this time. That's generally how the schedule works and how setup and tear down are done. Okay. Computer science projects, how do you include the prototype? Pictures of anything that you created. And videos, if you want to open up your device during the fair and show them a video of it. And if you can download it locally and just run it there on a device so the judges can click around, that's also an option. Flatboard or trifold? Okay, so both are common. Trifold is good because you can stand it up by itself without a stand. A flatboard, you will need a stand, which will take up some space. So I can show you in here. We had some examples. I'll just take Adhiban's project and make it real big here. So you can see that he had a flatboard with a stand and a computer over here, binder, and some other things to demonstrate the project. This is one thing you can do, but keep in mind that because it's all flat, you'll be able to have a little bit less space on it because it won't be folded in where you can put stuff on the walls that fold in. But it's cleaner as well, you could argue, but that's not a specific requirement. And then for a trifold, this is my project from last year. You can see a large trifold as long as it fits under the size requirements, and then any prototypes you have, device if you want to show the judge, any recordings you have, and then notebook. And this is all stuff that you can include as well. Okay. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. You can have a trifold or a flat board. Just make sure that it follows the requirements. And for printing, you can just make it, you can hand make it like this by printing out specific elements of it one by one and then putting them on. You can also handwrite, but I would recommend against handwriting, especially for senior division, because that's going to take a lot of time. Usually people just print stuff out and attach them to the board. If you want to do a professional like printing service, like I think Steven's presentation here is one of those. You can, there's services online, and any UPS store or service like that can also print them out on large posters for you. But yeah. Can you put your name on the back of the poster board? Yeah, I'm pretty sure your name and school is usually written on the back, just in case we need to figure out who owns a certain poster. Student ID requirements. Not that I know of. I didn't have to provide any student ID, but just to have any information that you have used for the fair ready. So your name, school, and then just be familiar with which project is yours. Yes, and to enter the fair, you'll need your badge. On the setup day, you'll get a badge, and they won't let you in on Wednesday if you don't have the badge. So keep that with you and make sure to bring it on Wednesday. Okay. Notebook, yes, you'll leave your notebook there with the setup that you have. You could also take it home, but that's a risk because what if you forget to bring it the next day? Then you won't have it. So I'd recommend just leaving it there as soon as you're setting up. How much time does one have for presentation to the judges? Okay, This is a great question. So in your initial pitch, so the judge will ask you, okay, so tell me a bit about your project. That's how most of the judging sessions will start. You have around a 30-second summary of your project and just mention all the key details of what you did, but make sure there's lots of room for them to ask questions. It won't be you like giving a preset presentation. It'll be based on the judge's specific questions about what you said or what they see or what they've read. For presentations, you should be prepared at minimum 7 minutes, though I have seen some presentations go for like 20, 30, 40 minutes. It really just depends on how many projects the judge has for that day, and stuff like that. So assume it's going to be at least around 7 minutes at the very bare minimum, but often 20 or 30 minutes as well for each presentation. And you should have like 4 to 7 different presentations throughout the day. Some of them will be science fair judges, and some of them will be from companies and other professional societies. Okay, how to make the tall poster. So the standard size for a poster board is 36 by 48 inches. So most poster boards that you'll find, it'll be 3 feet by 4 feet. If you attach 2 of those together and you have one on top of the other, that fits perfectly under the size requirement. That'll be 48 wide by 72 tall, which is within the requirement. So mine here, my poster here was actually, you can see there's a bit of a fold right there. I put 2 of them on top of each other, or one on top of the other, and then I had this little area at the top for the extra few inches. But yeah, one of those standard poster board sizes, or one stacked on top of the other, is fine. But don't feel the need to have a very tall poster if you don't need the space to convey all the stuff you did in your project. Okay. Yeah, you should get some permission from school to miss school on Wednesday. I'll also have to do that. Yeah, chair. Please make sure to bring a chair and write your name on it as well. Because in between your judging sessions, so the fair will happen for about like 5 to 7 hours. So in between your judging sessions, you might not want to be standing the whole time, otherwise you'll get sore. So do bring a chair. You will put it under the table, and then just take it out in between. That should be all the information, but just leave it there overnight as well. That's something, like, don't worry about the hassle of bringing it in on Wednesday morning. Just leave it there from when you do set up. Okay, fair schedule. This is the schedule for the fair. You should show up before 8 a.m. The category awards will be until 11:30 a.m. Special awards will be from 10 to 11:30. Lunchtime will be 11:30 to 12. Special awards will be 12 to 2 p.m. And grand awards, so those are the ones for ISEF and the similar additional competitions, will be 12:30 to 3. And then 3 to 3:30 is when you can get picked up, or if you can drive, when you can drive home. Judging sessions, you will have around 4 to 7. It depends on the availability of judges, but if you don't get as many judging sessions, that's not a bad sign or anything. That just means that the judges weren't available, and they'll account for that in the judging committee as well. So 4 to 7 approximately. You might have 8 or something like that, but approximately that many. Lunch. Yes, you should bring a lunch. There'll be 30 minutes of lunch break in the middle of the day. We'll just go outside of the venue to eat. So right outside, you'll be able to talk to any other competitors as well. Yes, no parents during the judging day. Parents should drop off the student and then head on out, go to work, do whatever you got to do. But it should be students for the whole day. Parents can come at the end to pick up and for setup, but they cannot be there during the presentation. The judges will walk around asking you to present your project. Most of them will open with something like this. So tell me about your project. That you should have a 30-second summary approximately of your entire project available. Be ready for them to ask questions and interrupt your presentation, because different judges have different judging styles, and the main goal of the presentation is for the judge to ask you questions and for you to answer them. So it'll be a lot of back and forth between you and the judge. ISEF, it is not a separate submission. If you get a Grand Awards judge or Grand Awards judges coming up to you in the afternoon, then you are in the running for ISEF awards for getting selected for ISEF. That's a Grand Award, and then out of those people who get selected there for Grand Awards judging, the committees will decide and announce at the award ceremony who's qualifying for ISEF. Yeah, when you're having it'll be an adult walking up to you and like, "Hi, my name is so and so. What's?" They might ask your name, and then they'll just be like, "So tell me about your project." It'll be very obvious. Most of them will have like a clipboard. Well, they'll be writing some stuff down, so you'll know when it's a judging session. Yeah, and it starts when they walk up to you. Okay. We're going to end off in just a second here, so if you have any final questions, you can put it in here in the chat. Yes, parents cannot be there during the day. Is this the last meeting before the fair? Let's see. No, we're gonna have. That's right. We're gonna have in-person judging practice. That will be our final workshop before the fair. That's on March 14th on Pi Day, and it'll be at La Jolla Library. Yeah. Information about that can be found here. Then March 28th, there'll be a post-fair workshop if you like for where you could take your project after the fair or things related to the California Science and Engineering Fair and just a debrief of how things went as well. This is our last Zoom workshop for this year. Questions after the call? That's a great question here. So if you do home, I'm pretty sure contact us. So if you go here to about and then contact us, put in your information here, it'll send them an email. And also the people who run the website and run the fair, Mr. Rodecker, Miss Armour, they respond to emails very, very quickly. They check very frequently. So you will have questions answered here. Just try, if it's something that's mentioned on the website, try to read the website first and look at the templates first, because I'm sure they get a lot of questions that are already that's already known information. So just to respect them, try to check the website ahead of time and see if your answer is already on there somewhere. If it's not, then you feel free to use this contact form or to email. And no name or school is allowed on the front of the poster. Table of contents, it's not that specific. You can use you can start page 1 at the actual content, like in the abstract. If you do want to use page 1 as the title slide, you can do that as well. Or the title page, you can do that. It's not super specific, as long as the judge can tell where the different aspects of your notebook are. Yes, the recording will be sent out. Okay? So after you go to the San Diego Science Fair, the GSDSCF, then some people will qualify for the California Science and Engineering Fair. If you don't want to go for whatever reason, or if you have a conflict, you don't have to go, but I would highly, highly recommend going if you do qualify, but that depends on your performance at the San Diego Fair. I would recommend it though. It's been very fun last times I've gone. Okay? We will go ahead and end it off here. If the award ceremony on Thursday night will have all the information about who qualifies and what awards you won. The recording will be sent out right after this. I'll just save it and send it out. Yeah, thank you to SLB volunteers who stuck around and helped give some presentations and answer questions. And thank you to all the people who have joined to watch today's workshop. All right, we're going to end it off here.
Yeah, Shonak, I'd like to add one last thing here at the end, okay? So, and that is, ladies and gentlemen that are still here, okay? Next Friday, February the 20th, is a hard deadline. That means that your project must have been through SRC review and approved, must have been through quality screening and approved, and you must be paid by 11:59 p.m. next Friday, February the 20th. So please make sure that happens. If you are still in a position where you haven't quite finished things up, now is the time. Get it done, get everything in, because again, February the 20th, 11:59 p.m. is a hard deadline. I mean, the website is set to shut down essentially at that point. So please don't get caught up in a last minute thing. Make sure that you get things done in a timely fashion this week. That is, you have to make sure everything is done, including payment, before 11:59 p.m. on February 20th, next Friday. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right.
And I will mention also, emails have been sent out to this regard. Please check them out, okay, for more information about other deadlines, okay? But February the 20th, that's the big one. Thanks.
All right. I'm gonna end the recording here.